Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm with my guys as usual, Tosin, Andrew. How you guys doing?
Good, good.
Pretty
Happy
good,
to be
man.
back.
Pretty good, honestly. Yeah, definitely. Can't wait to get
Yeah,
into it.
yeah. So I mean, we may as well get straight into it because this one has been on my mind all week. Let's talk about it. Vini and Rodri. I feel like you know, there's been a lot of outrage on social media. As big as I've honestly ever seen when it comes to who should win Ballon d'Or, right? I'm not even sure. Like, when we think about the Schneider day, when we think about like Robbery, when we think about Lewa, you know, I guess the times when Messi has won it, where people say he shouldn't have. I don't think there's been this big, or at least they've been maybe leveled with this. But I don't think I've seen this much outrage from social media. Even from the Real Madrid players, like them not showing up to the Ballon d'Or ceremony and like all that stuff. And yeah, like I just want to know what you guys think about it because you know I'm not sure if all that was valid to a sense. So yeah,
Yeah, I think I have a very short take on this, especially because I feel like the anger from a lot of people comes from the fact that we're used to seeing certain players play at a certain level that now it's almost like we're forced to pick a best player, right? So it's like, okay, back then it was always between two or three players. It was Messi, Ronaldo, and sometimes we had like the likes of Suarez, Neymar pop up in those conversations, maybe even Hazard. But either of those guys definitely earned that title of being the best player in the world. And we could see it because they were just way better than everyone else. Now we're in a conversation of, okay, we've seen the categories of what they used to decide Ballon d'Or. It's class, it's sportsmanship, it's impact on your games and the titles that your team wins. I think the last one was um I think individual performances and just kind of like putting your team above. What was it, Andrew? What was the last one?
You mentioned the three.
Oh,
There
okay,
was no
okay.
individual performance. Yeah, it was class, or how do you want to put it? Trophies won, and then what's it called now? Fair play, something like that.
Okay,
Something along
okay.
those lines.
So seeing those categories, it made sense, why you would say, okay, these players have done this. But now that we're focusing on what teams have won, it's almost like, okay, let's just find the best player on our team to push for and say, okay, this has been the best player this year. Right. Like, and that's why we're looking at a situation where Rodri, who didn't even win the best player in his own league, and Vinicius Jr. I think it was Bellingham that won in La Liga as well. These are two players that we know they were good this year, but they weren't outright the best players on their team, right? So for me, it could have gone to either of those people, but the whole topic about, oh, this person was robbed and Madrid taking a stance of not showing up to the Ballon d'Or was very distasteful. And I don't think we want to keep a trend like that going on, especially in like the type of sport we play where, at the end of the day, it's sort of opinion based and we're not exactly using the numbers. So for me, I think it could have gone to either person. And the people saying Vinny was robbed are definitely not looking at what Rodri was able to achieve over the last season and definitely see the impact that he's had on the team. And, you know, myself and Kaide have spoken about this on the pod like previously. Rodri is a guy that you cannot afford to lose on your team. And you may not see it in the game because he's not as flashy and he's not the usual attacker that we typically see on every single week scores week in week out. But he scored the important goals. He played almost every single game for Man City, and his impact on winning cannot be replaced. And for me, I think he deserved it, and that's honestly my take on it. I think he deserved it, and again, if Vinny won it, I wouldn't be upset as well. But
yeah.
yeah.
Andrew, before you go, just to touch on something Tosin said about the awards, right? So I feel like my take on that particular award was just like, okay, you're not even nominated as one of the best players in your league. Why should you be winning the best player in the world, right? I feel like that is definitely correct, if we're looking at things in a fair way. But I think that can also be skewed in the sense that, you know, if your league got it wrong, for instance, doesn't mean the federation or Ballon d'Or or whatever should also get it wrong. And the other thing is like they both like it's not the same people choosing for Ballon d'Or and choosing for the Premier League, right? So, like for that reason, for me, it's like if it's different people choosing, again, you already mentioned it's opinion based. So, who Andrew thinks the best player in the world is, isn't who I think the best player in the world is. Might not be who you think is the best player in the world. So, if Andrew is the one picking the best players in the Premier League, for instance, right, and he picks say 5 players, right, and who I think is the best player in the world, Andrew doesn't even have them in his top 5 in the league that player is in. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, so I feel like obviously, ideally, it doesn't make any sense. But I also see why, okay, it's very possible for it to also like kind of pan out that way. And it's normal. Like attackers are always given the edge when it comes to best players because they're the ones that we see directly impact the game by their goals and assists. And I think that's one thing I appreciate about, that's one reason I was like, you know what, like I'm open to Rodri winning because he's as good as these guys are in their own positions, right? Because he's not the one scoring the goals or assisting, doesn't mean we can't assess his game according to his position. Same way we're assessing those other guys according to their position, which most times like translates to like goals and assists. So yeah. But yeah, Andrew.
So just to correct a mistake I made earlier when Tosin was talking. For Ballon d'Or, yeah, they did consider the three categories were individual performance, team performance, fair play, and class. The fair play and class was deemed as one. So still on that note, I think it's better we educate our listeners more on what Ballon d'Or is. I think people still really think it's an award for the best player. It really isn't. Um, if you know what Ballon d'Or is, it is not the award for best player. That's why people always have that argument, like, oh, this person deserve the person don't deserve it. If it was for best player, I think most of our arguments will never be happening because it will just be based on stats, right? Ballon d'Or is not an award based on stats. It's not an award based on, as we just said, we just give you the three criteria. Ballon
Wait,
d'Or is
but can he
awarded
ever,
to.
Andrew,
Wait, let me
Andrew, but
finish.
can no,
I
but
didn't
can he
stop you when
ever
you're
be on
talking.
stats though? No, no, I'm just
Let me
asking
tell you what
something
Ballon
here.
d'Or is, and I'll answer your question.
Okay.
It answers your question essentially. The Ballon d'Or is awarded to the football player who receives the most points from an international jury of journalists. That's what it is, right? It's a voting system of 100 journalists from around the world. They ask them who is their best players, right? There's journalists that didn't have Rodri, Vini, and Bellingham in their top 5. The journalists from El Salvador didn't have him in their top 5. Journalists from Colombia also didn't have him in their top 5. So I can to say that those people don't know the stats. They know the stats, but as I don't know that you said it's preference. So this is 100 journalists voting on their preference, and then they collect the points according to who appeared most at the top. Who based on that, you have your average and you know who the winner is. So it's not about stats. It's not been about stats. Well, this one has not been about stats. Maybe this is a new system. But this year's votes, if you watch the award, journalist pictures were at the back when they were giving Rodri the award. So it was not about stats. It was basically about who they voted for. So we should try to make sure that there's a comparison here. It's not an award given to the best player based on what they did last year. It's an award given to the best player according to what 100 journalists from around the world think. That's all.
No, yeah, but can
That's
you
what
really
it
say
is.
that though?
There's not.
Because
It's not.
if
There's nothing about saying that
Cause,
that is what it
no,
is.
no, 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 no. I know. But are you trying to say like those guys don't take into consideration those things because your
And I'm
your
telling
formulation
you,
of what the best player is definitely
no.
based on what you're saying. It's not. It's
Back
not as if these are
again.
people that are not watching football.
Agreed. Back again. Ballon d'Or. Ballon d'Or. It's a French. It's from France football. It's a magazine that's giving an award based on what journalists think. You understand? This
I
is not
don't, I don't, I
FIFA.
don't, I don't, I don't, I don't disagree
It's not,
with
yeah. So this is not
that.
FIFA. This is not.
I know,
Yeah.
but what
So
I'm asking is don't
let
you
me.
think you don't? So you don't think no, because I understand what you're saying. I think you don't understand what I'm asking you.
Okay, ask your question.
So I'm asking okay, let's imagine you're the journalist. You know the criteria for Ballon d'Or. So like fairness, all that, no stats or whatever the case is. I'm saying when you now decide who you're picking, you imagine you're the journalist. Like you don't think what you've seen those players do stats wise would influence your decision, is what I'm asking you as a journalist.
That is what is meant to happen, right? That is what is meant to happen. But I just gave you examples of journalists that did not even have both Rodri or Vini in their top
Yeah.
five. Even they didn't
And
have, there's a journalist that didn't have Vini in his top 10. So you can't tell me like, oh, this award is based solely on this, and this. It is still about preference. It's based on your
No, of
preference.
course.
absolutely,
It's
and
opinion
absolutely,
based.
yeah. Opinion, like
So
I
no, it's
said,
not
like
opinion, it's
again,
preference
is
based. Completely
Yeah,
preference.
but
Because
same,
if
same thing.
because if
Andrew,
you because
here's where I agree with you. I do agree with you, and this is just how it is in most sports. Sports is it's
no,
a
it's not
like
like
especially with
in the
awards,
NBA.
NBA people still vote.
No, in the
Yeah.
NBA is different. In the NBA is strictly your stats first.
No, but it's not
No,
strictly
but
a
people
star.
still vote. Like that's what,
But
and
wait,
then
wait,
what
back again.
happens? What
Let me wait,
happens
sorry,
though?
sorry,
What
sorry.
happens is
So
yeah.
I
Let
want
me
to
let
just
me
say
let me let me
something.
just say this. Okay. You go.
I
You go.
think
Andrew.
the
You go.
internet is
You go.
affecting it. Just let me say something.
Okay.
An equivalent of NBA's MVP award will be FIFA the best, right? We don't have an equivalent of that to Ballon d'Or. I think people still don't understand that Ballon d'Or has nothing to do with football. It's an award from a magazine.
No, but you can't
It
say
is
it has
based
nothing
on
to do with football.
footballers. No,
That's
chill. It's
why I
based on
disagree.
soccer. Obviously, no, it has nothing to do with football. But I mean, it's not awarded from a football body that we all recognize. Do you go
Yeah.
about talking about France football? No. France football is
Yeah.
literally a magazine. You can always, this is something you can chat GPT. No one is going around. Okay, another example
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
there's players that receive Ballon d'Or but didn't receive FIFA best. This was back in the days. Like Michael Owen has a Ballon d'Or. The same year he won it, Ronaldo De Lima won FIFA best. He won the World Cup and all. Michael Owen won Ballon. Like things like that. It's like you have to remember that this is a magazine giving an award. There's other magazines that give awards. Yes, this is the number one that we respect based on history and based on the fact that they've gotten it right sometimes and all of
Yeah.
that. But all I'm saying here is the fact that they're getting it wrong now, or people might say they're getting it wrong. People are having all these arguments. It's just you have to come back to the history and to the background of what the award is for and who is giving this award. It's not an award given by FIFA. It's not an award given by
Yeah.
EPL. So like they matter, but they don't matter as much as we're making them matter in the grand scheme of things. You
Yeah.
get so that's
Let's
why
let's
I feel
let's
like even the fact that Vini and that's why I feel like Real Madrid can say what they had to say. Because I don't know the day, it's just France. Like, what are we really doing here? Like, okay, those guys don't respect us anymore. It's fine. It doesn't, they're not
Yeah.
insulting football, they're insulting France football or whatever organization that is. You have to look at
No,
it that
but they
way.
were but they were ready to initiate. They were ready to embrace all of that when they thought Vini was going to win.
Yeah.
So
No,
I feel
not
like
when they
that's I
thought.
feel like
So
that's not fair.
again,
Because
look
now
back
it's
at
all of a
it.
sudden it's
The
like you're
reason
telling them
why
to fuck off
yeah,
because he's not winning.
the whole reason why Vini came into this conversation, we were all here when we were saying Bellingham was going to win, and Vini came into the conversation. From where? Who started these conversations? The journalists. The day of the award, the journalists also decided they voted, 100 of them voted, and he didn't win it. So it's like, why am I respecting these journalists? Like, he doesn't feel like, because you guys brought me into this mess, and then you just want to embarrass me in front of. That's their mentality. That's how Madrid is seeing it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong.
Sounding
I'm
real.
just saying.
Sounds
I'm just
entitled.
saying. I'm just trying to explain to you where their own preference is coming from. Real Madrid as an organization, they don't think like this is something that is valuable to them. If it was like UEFA award, like UEFA Best Player award, Real Madrid has
Yeah.
no choice but to be there. They can't disrespect UEFA. Right? They can literally lose their license Ballon d'Or can't do anything. It's just an award show. So it's like headies.
Yeah,
Next year they will do another one, and if Madrid show, they show. Like it's not going
yeah.
to. Like, do you understand? It's not a big deal per se,
No.
but
So
it is a big
no,
deal
no,
to the
no,
fan.
no.
But it's not a big deal to
It's
the
not.
world of
Yeah,
sports.
I don't think we're saying it's a big deal in terms of anybody can do anything. I think anyone calling that out is just calling that out more from a point of, for lack of a better word, I don't know if fair play or like not being a sore loser or whatever it really is. Do you get what I'm
But
saying?
this
Because
is
it's
not
like
about sore loser
out.
or fair play. Like what? That's why I'm confused with the whole argument. I feel like people keep making it look like there was like a medal. For example, if me and Tosin are playing a
So
game now, and Tosin wins that game, and then I'm being a sore loser because we played a game together, we both competed. Vini and Rodri did not compete. It's like an election.
they don't
Technically, they
have to
didn't compete.
compete.
Vini,
Like they didn't compete directly, obviously. Like nobody has ever competed directly, but the idea of I think the idea has always been okay. There's the top three, for instance. It's like okay, out of respect of being athletes, like I wanted to win it, you wanted to win it, the third person wanted to win it, right? You won it. I'm not happy you won it, but okay, like we're all putting in whatever we're putting in into this sport. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, yeah, nice efforts. I'll be there to clap for you type P. Obviously, not literally, but like again, just like showing sportsmanship, quote unquote. Do you get what I'm
and
saying?
I agree with that,
So it's like
obviously.
you now again, you ready and willing to attend this in because you believe you were going to win. And then the moment you find out you're not winning, you then back out and say, "Yeah,
He didn't
I'm not
back
going."
out.
Fuck
Why are you
this.
saying he should go against his employer to go to the
No,
competition?
no,
It's
no.
Real
I'm not
Madrid.
talking about. I'm not talking about Vini in particular. I'm just saying the fact that whatever reason it is, because from what you're saying, it sounds like you're like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like maybe wrong is not the word, but it's like they like you almost sounds like you're saying like that's what they should have done. The moment they found out that Vini wasn't winning, they
No,
shouldn't
I'm
have
not saying
shown
that.
it.
I'm saying they
And
have the power to choose what they want to do.
obviously they
Keep
have
in
anybody
mind,
has power to
Lionel
choose.
Messi
Oh my
and
god, this
Barcelona
Andrew
have
guy,
done this
man.
But
before.
Obviously
No,
anybody
keep in
has the
mind.
power to
wait,
do
No,
what they
chill.
want to
Keep
do.
in
okay,
Like
mind. No,
it's a
wait,
free
hold on.
it's a free
Keep in
world.
mind.
You can do
No,
what you want
hold
to
on.
do.
Keep in
let's
mind.
let's
This
hold
is not
on.
the first time people have snubbed the award. The Awards award gets snubbed
Obviously.
regularly. So why is this
Yeah.
hyped up as a topic now? That's what I'm trying to explain. Like, it's
But it's
not a
not the
big
first
deal.
time. But it's not the first time it's a topic. When people snub awards when they are not winning, people talk about the
Lionel
fact
Messi
that
snubbed it when he wasn't winning it. Nobody's talking
and
about it
no
the week
and
after.
no one said anything.
We spoke
Like that's
about
what you're
it
telling
just
me.
we spoke about it just in the moment. No one is making it a big deal and saying, "Oh, it is unsportsmanlike." People moved on immediately because Ronaldo won it because he deserved it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're
Nobody's
saying, but
nobody's
when
nobody
but no,
was
but
making
when
it a
but
fuss.
no, but when Messi didn't win, we all know Messi didn't deserve to win. So the Vini on like let's put everything in
But
context.
Messi thought he
There's a
deserved to
lot.
win. That's
There's
why he
a
didn't
lot more
come.
going on. There's a lot more going on with Vini's situation than like the world doesn't agree with Rodri winning. The world didn't disagree with Ronaldo winning that year. So like again, there's context to everything. Like there's more attention on this Vini situation, which is why it's still being talked about almost a week. Because it's not even been a week, but like almost a week after.
Yeah.
Because people are still just talking about the whole topic in general. And that just happens to be one of the subtopics on that. And obviously more attention has been brought onto it because Madrid players are tweeting, all these guys are tweeting like someone shot Vini. You get what I'm saying? And it's just like, bro, like
No, obviously that's
this
too
guy,
much.
this guy just lost out on the award. Like, why you guys acting like he scored 100 goals this season and they didn't give him the Ballon d'Or like it's some major crime.
I've not even hit my own point on the head because it seems like we're going on the same direction. I'm telling you, all I'm saying here is, as you said, the way the players are being, they're making it look like something crazy just happened. It's just Ballon d'Or, guy. It's not life or death. It's not as big deal as they're making it seem. That's what I'm trying to explain. Even
Yeah.
him saying, making points of, oh, I have to do better next time. I have to do times two, bro. Even if you do times two, you might not still win it because they might not still vote for you. Like, there's just reasons
Um
why you were not chosen, and those reasons can still be there regardless of what you do. Haaland scored how many goals? He didn't win it, and he's not crying about it, and he might never win it, But it's just how it is. People just don't vote based on what they don't like. People were calling Haaland Tuesday. People still say Haaland's football is not a footballer that me, blah blah blah. This nigga is scoring goals every week, but I say it's not a footballer that this one. And that because of that second thought, Haaland might never win this award. So it's things like that that journalists always that's their preference in quote. They say, oh, he doesn't pass the eye test. The reason why Vini was even there because he passed the eye test. And then, oh, he doesn't pass the sportsman-like behavior. So we're not going to just give him like 5 because he's always fighting, he's always, all those kind of things. It's not really about you are scoring, you are winning Champions League, you are winning World Cup. It's not really about those. It's just about what the journalists feel deserves the award. Simple. And
But
if you don't win, it's not life or death.
the
You can just
reality,
win
the
something
reality,
else.
the reality of that is, again, like we've always said, it's an opinion-based sport, but the journalists also watch the game, and I don't think you're putting that into perspective. They watch the game; they're influenced by the decisions they make are influenced by how the players have performed that year. And we're talking about FIFA ranked journalists as well. So, like, don't just hear me out, right?
I'm not saying anything.
Don't put yourself in the position of a journalist because you're not ranked by FIFA. Like, there's certain categories and there's certain things that you know they have earned for them to be able to make certain choices. And if majority of the people, because you even said it yourself, they didn't have Rodri or Vini in some of those votes, right? But if the majority of those people can select one player, that means that player, to their eyes or in their eyes, stood out more times than anyone else that we would have spoken about or would have been in that conversation. So the fact that Rodri was chosen, the fact that Vini was even in that conversation, it means not only did we think they deserved it, they also thought they deserved it to some extent because those were the two people that were closest. For me, I would even put Bellingham as the second best player or even the first because Bellingham was La Liga player of the season,
Yes.
won the Champions League,
Mm-hmm.
and was in the final versus Spain.
Yes.
So, and that was also like literally, I think it was even second highest goal scorer in La Liga. So,
Yeah.
I'm sure he was third in the voting process. So, it obviously shows that at least they're watching the same thing we are. But then to say that it's just literally subjective and it's just preference and it's just, I don't think we're giving them the credit that they deserve. And again, there's three
No,
categories
see,
in which they're judged on. So, we have to follow that. That's just what it is at the end
fine.
of the day.
Agreed. But if you look deeper, aside from the top three, and you look deeper, everything I'm saying makes more sense.
For
Because
sure, for sure.
you
I agree with
understand what
that.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you see that the voting was completely, like, weird. Like,
It's not based on stats. It's
it
definitely,
was
I
just
agree
kind
with you.
of very, very weird. So,
Yeah.
obviously, I'm in line with what you're saying. Yeah, they're definitely accredited. So, they must have done something to be there, right? That's facts. But at the end of the day, as Kayode said, the whole world expected somebody to win based
Hmm.
on what they even brought up. And then
Yeah.
that sudden switch on that day, it's kind of was. I think that's what caused this whole commotion. If there was
No,
no
but
hype of Vini winning before, and that day happened, there will now not have been
it
any
wasn't switched
saga per
on the
se.
day of. It wasn't switched on the
The
day of. The
results
reason
came out on the day of. Yeah, I get.
exactly,
I
exactly. But
get. I
the
get.
reason why we are privy to things like this is because of people like
Fabrizio, no.
Fabrizio.
Fabrizio. Like, like we would have just watched the ceremony and we wouldn't see Madrid there. And it would have been like, if you guys are not going to show up and take a stance because you weren't chosen, you're just sore losers. We don't even need to dwell on that too long. Like, that's a topic where it's like Messi and Ronaldo have been in that position 20 times, right? They made a decision as either as players or maybe in the, like as a group or whatever not to show up. But the whole thing of Madrid making a fuss about it, it's not even a topic that we need to consistently dwell
Yeah.
on because it's not logical. It's not like it's not going to be a constant where like, oh, a player doesn't get selected and then we choose not to show
Yeah.
up. It's not, I
Like
don't think teams are going to
No,
follow
me
that trend,
personally,
So
I feel like that should happen more, and I feel like that happening more would change their system of voting or even of awarding the award. It needs to happen more because people keep saying that the world is losing credibility. You have to make it something has to change for them to actually
yeah,
take things serious.
but
This system is
but
clearly not what people
so
like.
are you saying there will be a system that would come where you won't
It
have
was like
situations
that
where
before.
no chill now that you won't have players unhappy or thinking I should have won.
Not that. I'm saying there was a metric system before. you have to look back into it from 2008 to 2000, I think 14. FIFA and Ballon d'Or came together to give the award as for best player together. So it came with stats from FIFA and also your journalists together who push this award. And nobody was
Yes.
arguing until they
So
separated again and they started doing their
yes.
their mago mago.
So
And it
what?
was,
So
no, I was gonna add. Sorry, Kylie. I was gonna say it was from Andrew. You were right around the time. It was like 2010 to 2015, and they decided to separate that. I don't think it takes away from the fact that there's always going to be controversy around whoever wins it because we do not have players in the game such as the likes of Messi and Ronaldo that either person is deserving of the award, right? And even when we go all the way down to stats, like we're arguing about a player that scored
No,
60,
wait, hey, sorry. Again,
like
I've not been on the stance and said Vini deserves the
yeah,
award. By the way,
I
just
know,
for
but
record,
your
all I'm saying here
propaganda.
is all I'm saying here is the reaction from everyone and from even Madrid, it's not worth it. Ballon d'Or is not worth all that. That's my point, by the way. I'm not saying that Vini is like ultimately deserving or Rodri ultimately deserving or Bellingham ultimately deserving. As you said, anyone could have won and it's fine. All I'm saying is the hype that this whole thing is getting is too deep compared to how the award is even meant to be carried initially. The award is not that valuable, in my opinion. But obviously, everybody believes that Ballon d'Or is number one. But I personally believe it's not number one based on the system by which they pick their best player. That's all I'm trying to say here,
And
just to get
I
things
feel like
straight.
yeah, of course, and just so we can get back on track, I do feel like that is a conversation that we can have in another episode where we compare awards and FIFA's because now that they're separating us, that is a conversation in itself. Like, what is the most prestige award for a football player to win? We can have that conversation. But in today's world and what we've been watching so far, to be the best player in the world, you have to win the Ballon d'Or. To even have that conversation, for me, I cannot have a conversation about who was the best player in the last 5 decades, and you cannot bring up a player that hasn't won a Ballon d'Or. That's not a conversation that we're going to have, and you're going
No,
to bring
I
up.
agree with you.
Yeah, you can like we know Iniesta had a span, where he was arguably the best player or the best midfielder, whatever, in the world. We know that clearly, but he never won it. So we can't say like we can't push that agenda just because that award needs to be in your cabinet for us to have that conversation.
I
So
agree.
that's why it is of utmost importance when we want to have conversations like that. And again, they are still backed by UEFA. Like Ballon d'Or is not a random award; they're still sponsored by UEFA. So there's so much in
As
it
at
that
this year, no, they were not
as at
always.
this year,
As at
but
this year, yeah,
prior to that, they
yeah,
were
yeah.
in a
They had their FIFA,
partnership
but yeah,
with
yeah,
FIFA.
yeah.
So they are definitely extremely valued and they're very credible. So fair case is that it's a magazine award, they're a big magazine in France, but France is kind of viewed as one of the homes of football at the end of the day. So we're not going to downgrade it. It's not like you're getting a best player award in I don't want to say any country to
No, see,
Nigeria.
just no, honestly,
it's not like
see,
Nigeria's giving
see.
you it's
For
like Nigeria's
example,
giving you an award
sorry,
and then we're
sorry.
arguing about that. Do you know what I mean?
For example, in Africa, our number one award is CAF Best Player Award, right?
Mhm.
BBC
Yeah.
gives an award, right? BBC gives an award. They gave Mikel Obi multiple times. But if you think about it, since Kanu Wanko, we've not had a Nigerian player until Osimhen just won. That's one African best player. It sounds ridiculous, right? That nobody has won since Kanu of like 98 or so, all the way to now, like to last year, almost 20 something years. It sounds ridiculous. But it's because different organizations give award. But number one that we're looking at is CAF, because CAF is what? The Convention of African Football. That's the African body. If FIFA consistently was giving, and they have been giving the best award, blah blah blah, and if we're ranking that as if that was meant to be the number one award, because it's based on stats, based on so many, it's based on players and coaches voting, not journalists, by the way, for CAF and other all these federations, players, coaches, and what's that thing called, like your NI, like the what's that thing, like Nigerian football, the federation president, essentially. It's
NFF.
based on,
NFF.
yeah, NFF and all that for different countries. That's how those awards are given, not journalists, by the way. But Ballon d'Or is strictly journalists. No, I'm not saying that the journalists are wrong in any way, but strictly journalists. So I feel like if people know or people put into perspective what these awards, how they are even given, it kind of makes you understand where these things are coming from, so that you stop feel. I don't think even Vinny even
No,
understands
but,
what's even going on. I feel like
but
that's why
Andrew,
this whole. Wait, sorry, let me just finish, and then I'll finish on what I feel about Rodri at the end of the day, because I feel like he had an amazing season, the season prior, right? And I feel like this journalist knew what happened the season prior by awarding this thing to Messi for some random reason. And I feel like this year's own was given to Rodri based on that. Based on that, like it was more like a complimentary based on that, and also based on the Spanish, because no Spanish player has won Ballon d'Or since I can't remember when last. No Spanish player have won Ballon d'Or in probably like since the 80s or so. So I feel like this was just to crown all of that, crown all those effort. Okay, Spanish players have been doing so well, and they can't go through this whole season without this whole period without winning a Ballon d'Or. You know how insane that would be. So I feel like this was how they were able to just like, okay, let's even do, and that was why Rodri's speech was on that same level. Thinking was saying, okay, since I've been able to do this, like as a country, we haven't been able to win this for so long. I'm proud I was one that was able to finally bring this home. Blah 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 and blah blah blah. I feel like that is where the journalists lied upon. Just that the fact that he had an amazing season prior and he deserves it the year ago. He didn't deserve it now, in my opinion. He deserved it last year, which is that one is undoubtable. Like God deserved that one, and then they just finally just gave him this one based on, okay, we can try to like squeeze it. If you remember, Messi also won an award, a Ballon d'Or, based on what he did almost 2 years ago. People were like, oh, he has won the World Cup a long time ago. Why are you giving him Ballon d'Or almost 2 years after? It's the same thing, the same kind of system. So I feel like even this Vini or whatever they're hyping up now, let's say Vini, if Vini or Bellingham had an amazing year prior, like they had like a super year, they would have been probably the ones that would be looking out for the next Ballon d'Or. No, no, I feel like that's how journalists are doing this thing, and we will keep
so
having arguments until we try to align with the way they are thinking. Because it seems like we're all not on the same um, level as them. Because when they come out with this result, we're like, what's going on? But it's because they have a reason. They're not, because in my opinion, Martinez, the guy in Argentina, didn't deserve to be seventh. He won Copa America, did everything with Inter Milan. He won the league with them. Had an amazing season. Had the most goals. Was seventh behind Cavara. Like, let's be reasonable. That's not
oh,
right.
well, okay. So Andrew, first of all, I think there's a lot of speculations there that might be right, that may not be right, but I feel like there's a lot of speculations there about what's motivating journalists to vote. Second, I feel like we've shifted this conversation kind of away from what we're really discussing, which is people think Vini should have won. Like, it's not really about the bodies. It's not Ballon d'Or that is arguing on Twitter that Vini should have won. It's not Ballon d'Or that is arguing that Rodri didn't deserve to win or any of those things, right? People genuinely believe that. Whether it's Ballon d'Or that gave that, even if it was FIFA that gave Rodri that award, people would still, like, the argument would still stand, right? And the thing is, um, again, it's just like, okay, Vini, you know what? Like, okay, let me take a step back. So, media is the one that has pushed, Vini into the eyes of the public. Because the thing is, I feel like if people were actually watching football, in my honest opinion, there's no way you have this much of an outrage for Vini not winning best player. Not that he doesn't deserve it, not that he shouldn't have won, but like the level of outrage for him not winning, I think, again, like you can't be watching enough football and be that mad at the fact that Vini didn't win, right? That's the part me I really really don't understand, right? And again, I don't think I think all the footballing body discussion we've had is very very valid, but at the same time, they are not the ones that, you know, the people that are disagreeing with the journalists obviously are of the opinion that Vini very well should have been like the undisputed best player in the world, right? And while your arguments might be valid as well for, okay, maybe those guys are giving Rodri the award based off of what he did last, I guess, the previous Ballon d'Or calendar year. I still genuinely believe like he had. If Vini is actually his competition, I feel like he had a good enough season to also be deserving of the award. Like I don't think Vini blew him out the water where it's just like yo, like there's no reason for um Rodri to be in that conversation. Back to what you guys even said, I think Bellingham deserves it more than Vini.
Yeah,
If
I'm
I'm
on
being very
Bellingham. Yeah,
honest, like you get what I'm saying? Like there was the consistency was there. Do you get what I'm saying? The availability was there. I feel like where Bellingham has dropped is over the last like this season. It's like start to the new season.
they
He has
changed
not
his
been
rules.
as good. He changed his role. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like obviously he's no longer in our faces like that. And that's why everyone has just kind of forgotten about Bellingham. And I would always say like the biggest part of Vini's campaign for this is the fact that he was so clutch in Champions League last season, and like we know once you get to that knockout stage of Champions League, like everyone is watching, so like everyone is seeing Vini do that, and I guess the assumption then is just like people are watching and just like oh my god, like see what Vini is doing, like he has probably been doing this all season. Like this is definitely the best player in the world, right? And I don't disagree that he's been the best player since that moment. But at the end of the day, it's still an award for a year. It's not Champions League knockout player of the year. Do you get what I'm saying? So again, obviously, like I feel like we'll keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, right? But I think again, like I think the focus is just more on the fact that people genuinely believe like Vini was the best in the sense that, you know, there's absolutely no reason they should be giving anyone else than Vini. And that is what me I disagree with. Do you get what I'm saying? Like if Vini won, I was fine with that. Do you get? I'm like, yeah, like he does deserve to be the best. Do you get what I'm saying? I felt the same way with Rodri was like, okay, well, if they don't give Vini and they give Rodri, I think Rodri is also deserving. Like, oh, if they don't give Rodri and they give Bellingham, like, I feel like, okay, yeah, he is too. But like, those were the three players where I'm like, okay, any one of these players, like, I wouldn't be like, there's absolutely no reason, you should be giving this player. But the outrage, bruh, it's like, yo, like, you guys are acting like they went from giving Vini to giving, I don't know, maybe Nicholas Jackson or something. Like, do you get, like, it was like, bro, you guys need to chill, man.
Yeah, and
but yeah,
um, one more thing I want to say is like we have a situation where again between those two players, Vinny won the Champions League and the Premier League, but didn't even show up in the Copa America. Like, and when I say didn't show up,
ghost,
like he was a ghost,
ghost,
literally. And those are the tournaments where if there's a close call between Messi and Ronaldo or Messi and
it matters.
whoever, you use that to edge out. Like Bellingham was in the finals versus Spain, and for some reason, he wasn't still like he wasn't favored to win that award over Vinicius. So the agenda that Madrid and whoever else is supporting Vinicius Jr. is trying to push on the rest of us is literally just like we watch the game. We're all football fans. Like you can't bring a player that missed almost half of the season and give him a Ballon d'Or award. Like we watch the games as well, right? So we understand there's a lot of backing that Madrid has, and Perez probably makes the calls. But again, we're not oblivious to the fact that he missed a lot of games in the start of the season, didn't show up in the Copa America, and he doesn't even have the most goals in the league
Bro,
or assists. So what are
bro,
we talking
for
about?
just saying on that last point, for an attacker who impacts the game with goals and assists, he wasn't even in top five leagues. He wasn't top 15 in that
Yeah,
span. Like, so, like, how do you want to argue for a player that was not top 15?
Is it by dribbles? Like, is that what we're doing? Like,
You know what I'm
like
saying?
I
It's
don't understand.
like,
Like,
and it's like I understand how you can impact the game, but bro, like, how do you argue for a player that impacts game by? You know what I'm saying? He's not the kind of winger or midfielder that's like, oh, he's doing things without scoring and assisting. We all know that's how Vinny impacts the game, right? So it's like, bro, again, it's like all these things. We can even make a point and say he should not be in that conversation, but I don't even think he shouldn't be there. But it's just like the whole, oh, there was nobody else to give than Vinny. It's just well, I
bro,
don't know.
he had like four like because if we're even going by stats, like I don't understand the outrage. I don't understand
Bro.
the anger that's coming from from anyone that wanted. If you wanted Vini to win, you probably just see there's like even the season before he had better stats and he had more of an argument than whatever is going on right now. Like there's
Yeah.
seasons where Vini has been very good, but there are other players in that position as well that were just as good. This season
Yeah.
is just like okay, if we look at the wing at the left wing, it's probably one of the most dominant players, right? But that was in the time he was playing, and also um, played less minutes, had a decent amount of goals, had a lot of impact in the Champions League. But that was about it. Like we're not going to continue to have this conversation for a long time because again, I guess when people get away from this whole bubble that Madrid has created, we can actually just see the player for who they are. And we're talking about Rodri, a CDM, a defensive player that had 8 goals in the Premier League and 9 assists. Like that
and
is
and didn't
17.
and he didn't lose. He won 74 games in a row.
Like finally, Andrew, you're on page with us. Like
No, no,
like
no
No,
one
this
unbeaten. So
this
unbeaten in
is
sorry, it was
this
unbeaten in 74 games. Yeah, just let's
this is
not
a
forget.
player that impacts winning consistently.
Yeah.
Plays. We're talking about the eye test. We're talking about goal scoring. Whatever we want to do, if we're putting it down to the basics of the game, Rodri is the best player. First of all, in his position, without doubt. In his position, we're not comparing Rodri to anyone else in the world. But not only that, he impacts winning as well. And he did that for country and
And
club.
club. Like
End of argument. Like, what else are we like? Why is like? And again, like you said, the whole cry from other people about Vinny is like his teammates. You guys are acting like he got robbed, like or he got
bro.
shot. Like literally, like Vinny's out there talking about, oh, I'm going to do it again. No, you're not. You're not going to be the best player in the next season or the one after
It
that.
doesn't even matter
Like,
what he does. It's not. It's not. He's not going to be the best player.
if Vinny wins
Maybe
it,
by another. Maybe by
perfect.
another organization, Ballon d'Or will never give him again based on
Yeah, not
Yeah,
after all
like,
this.
yeah.
Well,
that's
yeah.
my take on it, honestly. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Anyways, I think that's a good place for us to wrap this up. Yeah, this definitely went much longer than we thought, but that's always a sign of
I
a
just
great
decided to give
conversation.
people
No,
some
exactly,
knowledge.
exactly.
We're meant to educate our listeners, so
Yeah, of course,
that's
of
what
course,
it
of
is.
course. Thanks for educating us today, Andrew.
Not just the listeners, Andrew, us
Yeah,
too, man. But again, I disagree with you. But thank you for educating us. Honestly, like,
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't worry. Would resume this class um on a different day. So Andrew, thanks again. And thanks for
No,
the
I'm always here.
listeners. Thanks to the listeners for being with us up until this point. And yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next video episode. Peace.
peace.